Hey everyone, hope you're doing great. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we'll dive into what if Princess Daisy trained Deku for 10 months, making it her goal to make him powerful without a powerful quirk, and she encouraged him to be tough and have confidence, and All Might passes 1-for-all onto him on the day of the UA entrance exam, and he got accepted into UA High. Smash that subscribe button, and be sure to peek at the description below. Let's begin. The sun beat down on the Sarasaland desert courts, a sweltering heat that would have sent lesser athletes scrambling for the shade of a palm tree. But for Princess Daisy, the heat was just a warm-up. Ha! Is that all you got, Luigi? Daisy slammed her racket into the ball, sending it rocketing across the clay court with a sonic boom that kicked up a cloud of orange dust. She adjusted her crown, which was miraculously pinned securely to her auburn hair despite the physical exertion. She was dressed in her signature orange athletic dress, looking less like a monarch and more like a dynamo of kinetic energy. On the other side of the net, Luigi, green cap pulled low, scrambled backward. He leaped, his legs fluttering in that peculiar, gravity-defying way he had, and managed a desperate lob return. I am trying, Daisy. But you're playing like we're on the final level. Luigi yelped. Every match is the final level if you want to win. Daisy shouted back. She rushed the net. She didn't just run, she dashed, a trail of flower petals seemingly materializing in her wake due to sheer charisma. She leaped for a smash. Hi, I'm Daisy, she swung, but she didn't hit the tennis ball. Just as her racket descended, the ground beneath the court rumbled. It wasn't a Bowser attack. Those were usually accompanied by airships and bad heavy metal music. This was structural. A hidden mechanism, perhaps left over from the ancient ruins her kingdom was famous for, grown beneath the clay. The floor tiles shifted, and a massive, green warp pipe violently telescoped upward, erupting from the ground directly in Daisy's trajectory. Whoa! Daisy tried to airbrake, a move that defied physics but was common practice in her world. She clipped the lip of the pipe. The collision sent her spinning. The suction of the pipe, a swirling vortex of neon green energy, caught her. Luigi! Help! She cried out, grabbing the rim. Daisy! Luigi rushed forward, tripping over his own feet and sliding on his stomach. He reached out a gloved hand, his fingers brushing hers. Don't worry about the match. Daisy yelled, her grip slipping. I was winning anyway, that's not what I'm worried about. With a comical thwomp sound, Daisy's grip failed. She was sucked down into the plumbing of the multiverse, spiraling through a kaleidoscope of colors, 8-bit sounds, and starfields. She felt the familiar sensation of warping, the compression of space, the twisting of gravity, but this felt longer than a trip to the Mushroom Kingdom. It felt heavier, grittier. When the pipe finally spat her out, she didn't land on soft grass or checkered soil. She hit asphalt. Hard. Izuku Midoriya felt like he was walking through a thick gray fog, though the afternoon sky over Muzudafu was clear. His yellow backpack felt like it was filled with lead, weighing down shoulders that were already sagging under the crushing weight of reality. It's not bad to have a dream, young man. But you also have to consider the reality. All Might's words echoed in his head, bouncing around his skull like a cruel pinball. The words of the symbol of peace. The man he had idolized since he was old enough to understand what a television was. I cannot simply say, you can become a hero even without power. Izuku stopped walking. He stared down at his red sneakers. Tears pricked at the corners of his eyes, but he felt too hollow to actually cry. He had been holding on to a thread of hope for 10 years. A thin, fraying thread that defied genetics, logic, and society. And today, the strongest man in the world had taken a pair of scissors and snipped it. He wasn't going to be a hero. He was just Deku. The quirkless kid. The pebble on the side of the road. I should just go home, he whispered to himself, his voice cracking. Mom will be worried. He turned the corner, intending to take the long way to the station to avoid people. But the universe had one more cruel joke to play. An explosion ripped through the air, shaking the ground beneath his feet. Izuku flinched, his instincts screaming at him to run away. But old habits died hard. Before his brain could process the danger, his legs were moving toward the noise. It was the tragic irony of his existence. He had the soul of a first responder trapped in the body of a civilian. He rounded the block and saw the smoke rising from the shopping district. Crowds were gathering, pressing against police barricades. Sirens wailed, creating a dissonance that made his head throb. He pushed through the back of the crowd, peering between the shoulders of onlookers. "It's a villain," someone whispered. "He's got a hostage," said another. Izuka looked. In the center of an alleyway engulfed in flames, a monstrous pile of sludge was thrashing around. It was the same villain that had attacked him earlier. The one All Might had bottled. It escaped? Izuka's blood ran cold. Did it fall out when I grabbed All Might's leg? Is this my fault? The pro-heroes were there. Death Arms, Kamui Woods, Empty Lady. But they were standing back. They were watching. Why aren't they doing anything? Izuka muttered, panic rising in his chest. They can't get close, a bystander explained. The fire, and the villain is slippery. They're waiting for someone with a better quirk matchup. Waiting? Izuka looked at the sludge monster. Through the muck and the flames he saw a face. A terrified pair of red eyes trying to breathe through the suffocating liquid. Bakugo. It was Kaken. The realization hit Izuka like a physical blow. The person who had tormented him, burned his notebook, and told him to take a swan dive off a roof, was dying. And the heroes, the people paid and trained to save lives, were calculating the odds. Princess Daisy sat up and rubbed her lower back. Ouch, she grumbled. What kind of warp zone is this? No exit pipe? Just hard gray rock? She stood up, dusting off her orange dress. She checked her crown, still perfect, and looked around. She was in an alleyway, but not the clean, bright alleyways of the Mushroom Kingdom where you might find a hidden coin block. This place smelled of exhaust, burning trash, and ozone. She walked out of the narrow side street, and nearly collided with a wall of people. Whoa, easy there, Toads, she muttered, pushing past a man in a business suit. Little crowded for a Tuesday, isn't it? Daisy was a ruler. She was used to crowds. She was used to cheering subjects. But this crowd wasn't cheering. They were terrified. The air was thick with tension and heat. She looked over the heads of the civilians. Being taller than the average Mario brother had its perks, and saw the inferno. Bowser? She wondered aloud, her hands balling into fists. No. That's just goo. She watched the scene unfold with a critical, athletic eye. She saw the massive heroes standing at the perimeter. Hey! Daisy shouted, her voice cutting through the din. She tapped a man on the shoulder. Why aren't those guys in costumes attacking? The timer is running down. The man looked at her like she was insane. A foreigner in a bright orange cosplay dress asking about the timer? They can't. It's too dangerous. They don't have the right quirks. Quirks? Daisy frowned. You mean power-ups? You don't need a fire flower to pull a kid out of the mud. You just need a grip. She watched, her irritation growing. In Sarasaland, if a monster attacked, you grabbed a tennis racket, a golf club, or a turnip, and you dealt with it. You didn't wait for a plumber to show up if you were standing right there. Useless, she hissed. Bunch of NPCs. She was about to step over the barricade herself. Diplomatic immunity be damned, when she saw movement. A boy, a scrawny, green-haired kid with a yellow backpack. He had been trembling a second ago. He looked like he was about to pass out from fear. But then, his eyes locked onto the victim in the sludge, and he bolted. Whoa! Daisy's eyes widened. The kid didn't have a weapon. He didn't glow with power. He didn't speed up like he'd taken a Starman. He was just running. Bad form, arms flailing, screaming in terror. Deku! The victim screamed. Daisy watched, mesmerized. The green kid threw his backpack. It hit the sludge monster in the eye. A lucky shot, or a calculated projectile? Daisy appreciated the aim. The monster flinched. The kid clawed at the sludge, his fingernails digging in, trying to free his friend. He's got 0 stats, Daisy analyzed aloud, her voice dropping to a whisper. Look at those arms. No muscle mass. His stance is terrible. He's going to get crushed. The sludge villain recovered. A massive, liquid tendril rose up, ready to squash the green boy like a bug. The pro-heroes screamed for him to stop, but they were too slow. Daisy's muscles coiled. She took a step forward, ready to intervene. She wasn't sure if her double jump worked in this dimension, but she was about to find out. But she didn't have to. A blur of movement. A massive gust of wind. A towering blond man appeared out of nowhere, blocking the sludge strike with his own body. He was huge, built like a heavyweight Donkey Kong but with a smile that was blindingly bright. I really am pathetic, the large man boomed, blood spraying from his mouth as he spoke. I told you the traits to make a great hero, but I see I wasn't living up to them myself. That's more like it. Daisy cheered, pumping a fist. Detroit. The man pulled back a fist that looked like it was made of iron. Smash! The punch didn't just hit the villain, it hit the atmosphere. A tornado of air pressure blasted upward. The sludge was atomized. The fire was blown out instantly. The clouds above the city swirled and broke, and within seconds, rain began to fall from the clear sky. The crowd went silent, then erupted into cheers. Daisy shielded her eyes from the wind, her dress flapping violently. She whistled low. Okay. That guy's got max stats. Definitely using a cheat code. She looked at the center of the crater. The green kid was sitting on the ground, stunned, soaking wet. The blonde hero was steaming. Daisy smiled. Interesting server I've landed in. The aftermath was infuriating. Daisy stood near the police line, arms crossed, tapping her foot impatiently. She had decided to observe before announcing her royal presence. The police and heroes had gathered the two boys. The blonde kid, the victim Bakugo, was being praised. The heroes were fawning over him. That quirk is amazing. You held out for so long. You're going to be a great sidekick one day. Bakugo looked arrogant, but shaken. He soaked up the praise, though his eyes kept darting toward Izuku. On the other side, Izuku Midoriya was being scolded. Death Arms, a hero with massive wooden arms, was pointing a finger in Izuku's face. Kamui Woods was nodding along sternly. That was absolutely reckless. Death Arms shouted. You have no quirk. You could have gotten yourself killed and the hostage killed. Did you think about that? You interfered with professional work. Izuku was hunched over, bowing repeatedly. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. My legs moved. I'm sorry. Daisy felt a vein pop in her forehead. Oh hell no, she snapped. She vaulted over the police tape. A nearby officer shouted, Hey! Miss! You can't be back here! This is a crime scene. Daisy ignored him. She marched straight up to Death Arms. She was significantly shorter than him, but she projected the aura of someone 10 feet tall. Hey! Lumberjack! Daisy barked. Death Arms turned, blinking. Excuse me? Citizen, you need to. Daisy poked him in his wooden chest with a gloved finger. It was a hard poke. Shut up. I've been watching this pro-level gameplay for 10 minutes, and I am unimpressed. Excuse me? Death Arms bristled. You're yelling at the only person who actually did something? Daisy gestured wildly at Izuku, who was looking up at her with wide, terrified green eyes. While you guys were standing around waiting for a tutorial prompt, this kid actually entered the boss battle. We were waiting for a suitable quirk. Kamui Woods argued. It was a tactical decision. It was cowardice. Daisy shouted. She turned to the crowd, which had gone quiet. Where I come from, if you see someone in trouble, you help. You don't check your inventory to see if you have the right item first. This kid, she slammed her hand onto Izuku's shoulder, making him yelp, has more guts in his pinky finger than you lot have in your entire skill trees. Miss, you're disrupting. I'm Princess Daisy of Sarasaland, she announced, hands on her hips. And I'm telling you, you're grading this match wrong. You're giving the high score to the victim and a game over to the hero. She looked down at Izuku. He was trembling, staring at her like she was an alien. Which, technically, she sort of was. Stand up straight, Greenie, she commanded, though her tone was softer than when she spoke to the heroes. Izuku straightened his spine instinctively. Why yes? Stop apologizing, she said. You saved him. Or at least, you bought enough time for Mr. Muscles to save him. That's a win. Don't let these NPCs tell you otherwise. She glared at Death Arms one last time. If this is what counts as professional heroism here, your kingdom is in big trouble. She spun on her heel, her orange dress twirling. Come on, kid. Let's go before I decide to test if wood burns. She walked away. Izuku, stunned and terrified of the pros, gave a final hasty bow and scrambled after her, mostly because he was afraid she might actually set Death Arms on fire. They walked in silence for a few blocks. The sun was setting, casting long, orange shadows across the residential streets. Izuku walked 3 paces behind Daisy, staring at the back of her head. He had so many questions. Who is she? Sarasaland? Is that a foreign country? Is her quirk some kind of royalty inducement? Why is she wearing a crown in public? Why did she defend me? Daisy stopped abruptly. Izuku nearly walked into her. She turned around and looked him up and down. Her blue eyes were piercing. She walked around him in a circle, poking his arm, his shoulder, and his leg. Ow. Excuse me? Izuku stammered. Terrible, Daisy muttered. Posture is a disaster. Slouching shoulders, sign of low confidence. Arms? Noodles. No definition. Legs? Okay, the calves aren't bad, you walk a lot. But your core stability? Non-existent. You trip over air, don't you? Izuku flushed bright red. I trip sometimes. You have heart, kid, Daisy said, stopping in front of him. I saw that back there. You moved when nobody else did. That's the most important stat. You can't grind for XP to get bravery. You either have it or you don't. Izuku looked down, clutching the straps of his backpack. It didn't matter. I couldn't do anything. I'm quirkless. I'm useless. Daisy tilted her head. Quirkless. That means no special power, right? Yeah. Everyone has one. Except me. I'm just defenseless. Daisy laughed. It was a loud, boisterous laugh that startled a cat on a nearby fence. Defenseless? Kid, my boyfriend is a plumber. He fights giant turtles, ghosts, and dragons. He doesn't have super strength or laser eyes. He jumps. He runs. He throws fireballs sometimes, but only if he finds a flower. Most of the time? It's just cardio and guts. She leaned in close. You don't need a quirk to be strong. You just need to stop acting like a Goomba and start training like a boss. Izuku blinked. The references were flying over his head, but the sentiment hit him hard. Hey! Deku! The shout came from behind them. Izuku froze. He knew that voice. Bakugo came stomping down the street, his uniform disheveled. He stopped a few yards away, breathing hard. He glared at Izuku, ignoring Daisy completely. I didn't ask for your help. Bakugo yelled, his voice cracking with emotion. And you didn't save me. I was fine. Don't look down on me. I don't owe you anything, you damn nerd. Bakugo turned and stomped away, his shoulders shaking. Izuku stood there stunned. Wow, Daisy said flatly. That guy has some serious anger management issues. He needs a yoga class or a Bob-OMB to the face. She looked at Izuku. Is he your rival? Our rival? Izuku sighed. More like childhood friend turned bully. Well, he knows you showed him up, Daisy said with a smirk. That's why he's mad. You bruised his ego. Good job. Izuku managed a weak smile. I guess. He turned to Daisy. Thank you. For what you said back there. To the heroes. Nobody has ever defended me like that. Daisy shrugged. I hate bullies. And I hate incompetent refs. You did good, kid. But... She poked him in the chest again. You're lucky you didn't die. You have the spirit, but your hardware is garbage. If you want to keep doing that hero stuff, you need an upgrade. Before Izuku could ask what she meant, a gust of wind blew down the street. I am here. Izuku jumped. Daisy just rolled her eyes. Oh look! The heavy hitter. All Might slid out from around a corner, striking a pose. He was in his hero form, muscles rippling, smile gleaming. I am here, he repeated. We heard you the first time, big guy, Daisy said unimpressed. Young Midoriya. All Might ignored Daisy for a moment, focusing on the boy. I managed to shake off the reporters. I had to find you. All Might? Izuku gasped. Why? You already told me. All Might's smile faltered. Steam began to pour off his body. Oh, Daisy said, watching curiously. Is he deflating? With a poof, the massive hero shrank. In his place stood the skeletal, gaunt figure Izuku had met on the roof. Daisy's jaw dropped. Whoa! She circled All Might. That's a distinct hitbox change. Is that a transformation spell? Or did you just lose a super mushroom? All Might coughed, wiping blood from his mouth. He looked at Daisy nervously. Young lady, this is a secret. You cannot tell anyone. My lips are sealed, Daisy said, making a zipping motion. I know a thing or two about secret identities. Though usually it's just a mustache change. All Might turned back to Izuku. The mood grew serious. The setting sun cast long shadows, framing the skeletal hero and the trembling boy. Young Midoriya, All Might said softly. I watched you. Back there. When everyone else, including myself, hesitated, you moved. Izuku's eyes widened. Tears began to well up again. The top heroes have stories about them from their school days, All Might continued, clutching his chest. Most of them have one thing in common. Their bodies moved before they could think. Izuku began to sob, clutching his chest. That happened to you today, didn't it? Yes, Izuku choked out. Daisy watched, her arms uncrossed. Her expression softened. She saw the raw emotion pouring off the kid. It was powerful. It was the kind of heart that saved kingdoms. You can become a hero, All Might declared. Izuku fell to his knees, crying into the pavement. It was the validation he had waited his entire life to hear. Daisy smiled. Ah. That's sweet. And that is why, All Might continued, I have a proposal for you. I wish to train you, and pass my power on to you. The record scratched in Daisy's head. Hold up, she said loudly. Izuku looked up, snot running down his nose. All Might froze. Pass your power? Daisy stepped between them. You mean give him a cheat code? All Might blinked. It is not a cheat code. It is my quirk, one for all. It is a torch passed down from generation to generation. He has proven himself worthy of inheriting it. Inheriting it? Daisy scoffed. She looked at Izuku, who was still on his knees, looking confused. Then she looked at All Might. Look at him, skeleton man. If you give him that power right now, he'll explode. All Might winced. Well, yes. His body is not yet ready. That is why I propose a training regimen to prepare his vessel. A training regimen? Daisy's eyes lit up. A dangerous, competitive fire ignited in her pupils. Oh, I know about training regimens. I've trained specifically to be able to slap a dragon into the stratosphere. She turned to Izuku. She grabbed him by the collar of his school uniform and hauled him to his feet. Listen to me, Greenie, Daisy said intensely. This guy wants to give you a magic power. Cool. Fine. Whatever. But a magic power doesn't make you a hero. It just makes you a loaded gun. If you fire a cannon from a canoe, you know what happens? The canoe sinks. I suppose? Izuku squeaked. You are the canoe, Daisy stated bluntly. She turned to All Might. You. Muscle man. You're great at punching things. I saw that. But can you teach agility? Can you teach reaction time? Can you teach him how to double jump off a falling piece of debris, spin in midair, and land a dropkick on a moving target? All Might scratched his head. Well, my fighting style is mostly straightforward smash. Exactly. Daisy poked All Might in the ribs. You're a tank. This kid isn't a tank. He's small. He's fast, or he will be when I'm done with him. He needs technique. He needs finesse. Daisy looked back at Izuku. A grin spread across her face, confident, radiant, and slightly terrifying. Here's the deal, she announced. I'm stuck in this dimension until I find another warp pipe. And frankly, this place is boring and the heroes are stiff. So I need a project. She pointed a thumb at herself. I'm Princess Daisy. I rule Sarasaland. I'm a tennis champion, a kart racing pro, a striker captain, and I've survived more kidnapping attempts than I can count. I'm going to make you my personal student. What? Izuku stammered. But All Might. He can handle the quirk stuff. Daisy waved a hand dismissively. He can teach you the philosophy or whatever. But I am going to teach you how to be tough. I'm going to turn you into an athlete so powerful that you won't even need his quirk to win. And when you finally do get it, you won't just be a vessel. You'll be a player one. She loomed over him. I'm going to make you run until you puke. I'm going to make you jump until you can touch the clouds. And I am going to make you scream until you stop whispering. Do you accept the challenge? Izuku looked at All Might, who looked bewildered but strangely relieved to have help. He looked at Daisy, who radiated an intensity that rivaled the sun. He thought about the sludge villain. He thought about his weakness. He thought about how badly he wanted to be strong. Not just strong like All Might, but strong enough to stand on his own 2 feet. Izuku wiped his eyes. He stood up straight. He looked Daisy in the eye. I accept. I can't hear you. Daisy cupped a hand to her ear. I accept. Izuku screamed, his voice cracking. Daisy grinned and slapped him on the back so hard he nearly face-planted. That's what I like to hear. Get ready, Greenie. Operation Super Smash Heroes starts tomorrow at dawn. And bring a water bottle. You're gonna need it. Daisy turned to walk away, a spring in her step. Now, where can a princess get a decent spaghetti dinner around here? All Might looked at Izuku. Young Midoriya. I feel we may have unleashed something far more terrifying than a villain. Izuku rubbed his stinging back, but for the first time in years, a genuine, confident smile crept onto his face. Maybe, Izuku said. But I think it's exactly what I need. The dawn over Muzdalifa was usually a quiet affair, a time for joggers and the early stirring of delivery trucks. But at Dagoba Municipal Beach Park, the silence was being murdered. Higher. Knees to chest. Come on, Greenie. You move like you're lagging. Izuku Midoriya was currently experiencing a level of physical hell he hadn't known existed. He was sprinting through soft, shifting sand, his sneakers sinking deep with every step, creating a resistance that made his quadriceps scream in protest. Standing atop a pile of rusted washing machines, looking like a conqueror surveying her empire, was Princess Daisy. She wore a whistle around her neck and held a clipboard she had seemingly materialized out of nowhere. Sitting on a nearby tire, All Might, in his skeletal true form, watched with a mixture of awe and concern. He held a bento box in his lap, forgotten. Your Highness, All Might ventured, raising a hand. Perhaps we should start with some light stretching? The boy is not used to. Stretching is for the loading screen. Daisy barked, not looking away from Izuku. He's been stretching his whole life, stretching the truth that he's fine. Now we work. Midoriya. Pick up the pace. If a chain chomp was behind you, you'd be lunch. Izuku collapsed face first into the sand, gasping for air. I can't. Legs, jelly. Daisy hopped down from the washing machines. She landed with a grace that defied the uneven terrain, her orange sneakers kicking up a minimal amount of dust. She loomed over the panting boy. Time, she clicked a stopwatch. 2 minutes, 14 seconds for a 100-yard dash in sand. My grandmother runs faster than that, and she's a pixelated sprite from 1989. Izuku rolled over, chest heaving. I'm sorry. Daisy pointed a finger at him violently. What is that? Izuku flinched. What? The S word. Daisy scowled. You apologized. Why? Did you hit me? Did you steal my turnip? Did you break the law? No, I failed the time. You didn't fail, you just set a low-high score, Daisy corrected. Apologizing for weakness is accepting the weakness. We don't do that here. From now on, that's rule number 1. She turned to the pile of trash and grabbed a rusted pipe, drawing a line in the sand. Rule number 1, no sorries. Just smashes. She looked back at him. Every time you apologize for something that isn't your fault, or apologize for not being good enough yet, you owe me 20 burpees. Right now. Drop. What? Now, did I stutter? 20. Let's go. Chest to sand, jump up, clap. 1. Izuku groaned, but the sheer intensity of her gaze forced his body to move. He began the burpees, his form sloppy, his arms shaking. All Might watched, a bead of sweat rolling down his forehead. She is intense, the hero muttered. 2 hours earlier, the meeting had taken place in a small, secluded park near Izuku's house. The sun hadn't even fully crested the horizon when All Might had presented his American dream plan. It was a stack of papers, detailing a rigorous schedule of sleep, diet, and lifting. It was scientific, calculated, and tailored to Izuku's body type. This, All Might had said proudly, is how we will prepare your vessel to inherit one for all. By cleaning up the garbage on Dagoba Beach, you will build the necessary muscle mass to hold the power without exploding. Daisy had snatched the papers from All Might's hand. She scanned them with the speed of a speedrunner reading patch notes. Boring, she declared, flipping a page. Standard. Basic. Nap time? She looked up at All Might. You want him to sleep 8 hours? In Sarasaland, we sleep when the level is clear. Rest is crucial for muscle recovery. All Might argued defensively. Sure, Daisy waved him off. But this? She shook the papers. This is just hauling trash. You're treating him like a forklift. He needs to build bulk. He needs to build function. Daisy countered. She slapped the papers against All Might's bony chest. Look at him. They both looked at Izuku, who was standing awkwardly by a swing set, clutching his backpack straps. He's timid, Daisy analyzed. He flinches when a leaf blows past him. If you give him super strength now, he's just going to be a timid kid who accidentally punches holes in walls when he gets scared. He doesn't just need biceps, muscle man. He needs reflexes. He needs proprioception. He needs to know where his body is in space so he doesn't trip over his own feet. Daisy walked over to Izuku and circled him. You said you want to be a hero, right? Like him? She pointed at All Might. Why, yes. Izuku nodded. Wrong answer, Daisy said. Izuku blinked. You can't be him. He's 6 foot huge and weighs as much as a thwomp. You're. She measured him with her hand. Compact. Aerodynamic. You're not a heavy hitter, Greenie. You're a platformer. A platformer? Speed. Agility. Using the environment. Wall kicks. Double jumps. You need to be harder to hit than a mosquito in a dark room. Daisy grinned, showing pearly white teeth. All Might is going to give you the raw power. That's the engine. I'm going to build the chassis. And let me tell you, by the time I'm done, you're gonna be a sports car, not a dump truck. She turned back to All Might. We split the duties. You handle the hero studies and the one for all theory. You make sure he eats his veggies. But the physical training? The conditioning? That's mine. I'm implementing the Sarasaland protocol. All Might looked at the determined princess, then at the hopeful boy. He sighed, a smile tugging at his lips. Very well. I suppose a fresh perspective couldn't hurt. But please, try not to break him. Daisy laughed. Break him? I'm going to forge him. Present time, Dagoba Beach. The sun was higher now. The smell of rotting garbage, wet cardboard, and sludge was potent, but Daisy didn't seem to notice. She was busy rearranging the landscape. She had found a rusted truck chassis and, with shocking strength for her size, she claimed it was technique and leverage. Though Izuku suspected she was naturally freakishly strong, she had upended it. Okay, listen up! Daisy shouted. Izuku finished his 20th burpee and collapsed. He looked up. The goal is to clean the beach, right? Daisy asked. Yes, All Might said. The hauling of heavy. Wrong. Daisy interrupted. The goal is to get from point A to point B without touching the ground. Izuku stared at her. What? Daisy pointed to the waterline, then to the seawall about 50 meters away. Between the 2 points lay a chaotic mess of refrigerators, tires, driftwood, broken furniture, and scrap metal. Hauling trash is boring, Daisy explained. It engages the muscles, but it shuts off the brain. You stop thinking. You just lift and walk. A hero can never stop thinking. She gestured to the trash. I've set up a course. Tire hop, to the fridge, wall kick off the truck chassis, grab the dangling rope, I tied that earlier. Swing to the washing machine, and land on the seawall. You have to move one piece of heavy trash from the water to the wall every run. All Might's eyes widened. Parkour? While carrying weights? Dynamic load bearing. Daisy corrected. If you're carrying a civilian out of a burning building, is the floor going to be flat? No. It's going to be collapsing. You need to know how to balance a heavy load while standing on one leg on a wobbly surface. She looked at Izuku. Grab that microwave. Izuku looked at the microwave. It was old, waterlogged, and covered in barnacles. He approached it, grabbed the sides, and heaved. It was heavy. His arms shook. Good, Daisy said. Now. Get it to the seawall. Don't touch the sand. If you touch the sand is lava. And if you die in the lava, you do 10 burpees. This is impossible. Izuku cried. Burpees. Daisy shouted. That sounded like a complaint. I'm not complaining. Then move. Izuku hoisted the microwave. He looked at the first obstacle, a row of tires half buried in the sand. He took a breath. Don't think about the weight. Think about the landing. He leaped. He landed on the first tire. It wobbled. The weight of the microwave threw his center of gravity forward. He flailed, panicked, and face-planted into the sand, the microwave thumping down next to him. You died, Daisy announced cheerfully. Reset. And give me 10, Izuku groaned, spitting out sand. This is going to be a long 10 months. The Midoriya apartment, evening. Inko Midoriya was a woman who lived in a perpetual state of mild anxiety. Her son, Izuku, was her world, and for years she had watched the light in his eyes dim. But today, he had come home different. He was filthy, smelling of ocean brine and rust, bruises forming on his shins, and he was barely able to lift his chopsticks. But the light was back. It was faint, flickering, but it was there. However, there was also a woman in her kitchen. You call this a stew? Daisy asked, peering into the pot on the stove. She was still wearing her tennis dress, though she had politely wiped her shoes before entering. It smells good, but where are the mushrooms? You need mushrooms for growth. Minko stammered, wringing her hands. Izuku isn't very fond of mushrooms. Nonsense. Daisy opened the fridge without asking. He's in training now. He needs protein, carbs, and power-ups. Do you have any fire flowers? Or spicy peppers? Peppers work too. Inko looked at Izuku, who was slumped at the dining table, staring at a bowl of rice like it was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. Izuku, Inko whispered. Who is this, princess? She's my trainer, Izuku mumbled, shoveling rice into his mouth. She's helping All Might. Daisy pulled a carton of eggs, a bag of spinach, and a container of leftover chicken from the fridge. Mrs. Midoriya, I'm taking over the nutrition plan. Izuku is built like a twig. No offense. I worry he's too thin too, Inko admitted, drawn in by Daisy's unstoppable confidence. Exactly. We need to bulk him up. Daisy cracked 3 eggs into the stew pot with one hand. In Sarasaland, we have a saying, you are what you eat. If you eat weak food, you're weak. If you eat super mushrooms, you break bricks with your head. Please don't let him break bricks with his head, Inko pleaded. Daisy turned, spoon in hand, her expression softening. She saw the worry in Inko's eyes, the same worry she had seen in the toads when Tatanga invaded. Hey, Daisy said, her voice dropping the loud, coaching persona for a moment. I know I'm a lot. I'm loud, I'm from out of town, and I keep talking about power-ups. But, she gestured to Izuku, who was falling asleep mid-chew. He wants this. Badly. I've seen pro athletes with less drive than your son. He's got the heart of a champion. I'm just trying to give him the body to match it so he doesn't get hurt. Inko's eyes watered. He really wants to be a hero. He's going to be a great one, Daisy promised. And I'm going to make sure he's tough enough to survive it. I won't let him break. That's a royal promise. Inko sniffled and wiped her eyes. Thank you. Would you like to stay for dinner? I think I have some dried shiitake mushrooms in the pantry. Daisy grinned. Now you're speaking my language. Toss them in. Month 1, the grind. The first month was a blur of pain. Izuku learned that Daisy's concept of training was a mix of Olympic decathlon, military boot camp, and a 3D platforming video game. Monday was mobility. Daisy set up courses that required Izuku to climb, swing, and vault. She taught him the wall jump, running vertically up a wall for a step, pushing off, turning, and grabbing a ledge. Don't hug the wall! Kick it away! Use the friction! Tuesday was power. This was the closest to All Might's original plan, involving moving heavy trash. But Daisy added a twist. He had to throw things. Aim! Lock on! Don't just chuck it! Hit that target! If you can throw a washing machine, you can throw a villain! Wednesday was reaction. Daisy stood on a high point and threw tennis balls at him. Hard. Dodge! Duck! Dip! Dive! And dodge! If you can get hit by a ball, you can get hit by a bullet. Use your Z-targeting. Thursday was endurance. Long distance running in the sand, swimming against the current, and holding planks until his abs felt like they were tearing. Friday was the boss battle. Sparring. Daisy didn't hold back. She didn't use powers, but she was fast, strong, and unpredictable. She would sweep his legs, slap his back, and push him into the dirt. Get up! She would yell. You have lives left. Don't waste them lying down. The hardest part, however, was the mental game. Izuku was a chronic apologizer. It was a defense mechanism, a way to make himself smaller so Bakugo and the world wouldn't hurt him. Sorry. Drop. 20 burpees. My bad. Drop. 20 burpees. Excuse me, I'm in the way. Drop. 20 burpees. By the third week, Izuku's shoulders were screaming, but his mind was changing. He started catching himself. He would open his mouth to apologize, see Daisy's eyebrow raise, and swallow the words. Instead of sorry, he started saying okay. Or I got it. Or simply nodding. It was a small change, but it felt massive. Month 2, the logic of the jump. You're overthinking it, Daisy said. They were at the beach. It was raining. All Might was holding an umbrella, looking miserable, but Daisy was soaking wet, loving it. The footing is slippery, Izuku analyzed, staring at a rusted beam he was supposed to balance walk across. If I shift my weight too fast, the coefficient of friction. Blah blah blah. Daisy made a talking hand motion. Math is for after the mission. Right now, it's physics. You know how to not slip? How? Commitment. Daisy stomped on the beam. It was slick with oil and rain. She didn't slip. If you hesitate, your weight shifts back. Your feet go out from under you. If you commit, your momentum carries you forward. You have to believe the platform will hold you, even if it won't. That doesn't make scientific sense, Izuku argued. It makes hero sense. Daisy countered. When All Might punched that sludge guy, did he calculate the wind resistance? No. He just smashed. You hesitate, you die. Your friend dies. Now, run across the beam. Don't look at your feet. Look at the goal. Izuku took a breath. The rain plastered his hair to his face. Don't hesitate. Momentum. He ran. He felt his foot slip on the second step, but instead of freezing, he pushed harder, driving his body forward. He wobbled, his arms windmilling, but he didn't stop. He reached the end and hopped off onto the sand. I did it, Izuku breathed. Sloppy, Daisy critiqued. You looked like a panicked chicken. But you didn't fall. Progress. She tossed him a towel. Again. Faster. Month 3, the library and the arcade. Training wasn't just physical. Daisy insisted on mental agility. One afternoon, she dragged Izuku to the local arcade. The noise was deafening, beeps, chimes, explosions. Pick a game, Daisy commanded. Izuku gravitated toward a strategy game, but Daisy steered him toward a fast-paced fighting game. This is combat, Daisy said, dropping a coin in. It's not about being stronger. It's about reading the frames. Watch the shoulders. Watch the startup animation. She destroyed him. Round after round. You're mashing buttons, Greenie. You're panicking. Watch me. Izuku watched. He saw how she waited. She didn't attack constantly. she baited. She waited for the opponent to make a mistake, and then she punished them. Villains are just bad AI, Daisy explained, furiously tapping buttons. They have patterns. Bakugo? He always leads with a right hook explosion. I've watched him. He telegraphs it. If you know the pattern, you can punish the whiff. Izuku's eyes widened. He pulled out his notebook. Pattern recognition. Put the book away. Daisy slapped it out of his hand. Eyes on the screen. Learn to see it in real time. Write it down later. If you're writing, you're not fighting. They spent 3 hours there. By the end, Izuku managed to take 1 round off her. Not bad, Daisy grinned. You're learning the meta. Month 4, the school confrontation. Aldred Junior High was the same as always. The taunts, the whispers. But Izuku felt different. His uniform felt tighter around the shoulders. His legs felt heavy, grounded. He wasn't walking with his head down anymore. Daisy's voice was constantly in his ear. Chin up! Crown on! Even if you don't have a crown, act like you do. During lunch, he accidentally bumped into a student in the hallway. So, the S word formed on his lips. The instinct to apologize and cower was strong. Then, a phantom image of Daisy appeared in his mind, pointing at the floor. 20 burpees! Izuku swallowed the word. He looked the student in the eye. Excuse me, Izuku said clearly. He nodded once, then walked around the student. The student blinked, confused by the lack of groveling. Later that day it happened. Bakugo cornered him after class. The blonde bully slammed a hand against the wall, trapping Izuku. You've been weird lately, Deku, Bakugo growled. Tiny explosions popping in his palm. You're hiding something. You think you're better than me? Izuku's heart hammered against his ribs. The old fear was there, icy and sharp. But something else was there too, muscle memory. He looked at Bakugo's hand. He saw the shoulder tense. He leads with a right hook explosion. I'm not hiding anything, Kaken, Izuku said. His voice shook slightly, but it was audible. I'm just working out. Don't lie to me. Bakugo raised his other hand to grab Izuku's collar. In the past, Izuku would have flinched back. He would have closed his eyes. This time, Izuku didn't move his feet. He shifted his weight. He watched Bakugo's hand coming. He knew exactly where it would land. Telegraph. Izuku stepped to the side. A small, efficient movement. Bakugo's hand grabbed empty air. The bully stumbled forward, off balance. What? Bakugo caught himself, spinning around. Izuku stood there, his hands up in a defensive posture, not a cowering one, but a guarded one. Daisy's stance. I don't want to fight you, Kaken, Izuku said. But I'm not going to just stand there anymore. Bakugo stared at him. For a moment, he didn't see the pebble on the side of the road. He saw something confusing. Something that refused to be kicked. TCH. Bakugo straightened up, looking unsettled. Whatever. Don't think this makes you a hero, you quirkless reject. He stormed off. Izuku let out a breath he had been holding for 10 years. His knees felt weak, but he didn't collapse. He pulled out his phone and texted Daisy. Izuku, I didn't say sorry to Kaken. A moment later, a reply came. Daisy, high score. 1,000 points. Tonight we celebrate. Extra spicy curry. Month 5, the halfway point. 5 months in. The beach was looking different. The massive piles of trash near the entrance were gone, replaced by smooth, golden sand. But the deeper sections were still a nightmare. Izuku stood shirtless in the afternoon sun. The transformation was undeniable. He wasn't bulky like All Might. He was lean. Wiry. His muscles were defined, like twisted steel cables under his skin. He had a runner's legs and a climber's back. All Might stood with Daisy, looking at the boy. He's progressing faster than my calculations predicted, All Might admitted. His muscle density is incredible. Told you, Daisy said, crossing her arms. Sarasalan protocol. We build them for endurance. But he's hitting a wall. A wall? Yeah. Strength isn't the problem anymore. It's the explosive power. He can lift the fridge, but he can't throw the fridge. Daisy tapped her chin. We need to unlock his double jump. Humans cannot double jump, All Might pointed out gently. Not with that attitude, Daisy shot back. It's about vertical plyometrics. Stored elastic energy. He needs to learn to use the ground. She walked over to Izuku. Hey! Greenie! Izuku jogged over. He wasn't panting anymore. Yes, coach? We're changing the routine. The trash hauling is now a warm-up. For the next month, we are focusing exclusively on legs. Izuku looked at his already burning calves. Just legs? I want you to be able to jump over a car, Daisy said seriously. Not around it. Over it. You're going to wear weighted anklets. 5 kilos each. 5 kilos? And you're going to wear them everywhere. School. Home. Sleep. Only take them off in the shower. Daisy produced 2 heavy, lead-line bands. This is old-school training. When you take them off, you're gonna feel like you're on the moon. Izuku strapped them on. He tried to lift his leg. It felt like it was stuck in mud. This is heavy. Good, Daisy grinned. Now jump on that truck. Izuku bent his knees and sprang. He barely got 3 inches off the ground. Pathetic. Daisy cheered. Again. Do it until you can touch the rim. The mental burpee. It wasn't just physical. Daisy began to teach him about the nature of heroism. One evening, sitting on top of a pile of tires watching the sunset, Daisy shared a water bottle with him. You know, she said, looking out at the ocean. Everyone thinks Peach is the one who needs saving. And sure, Bowser grabs her a lot. But she floats. She has magic. She rules a kingdom. Izuku listened intently. He loved hearing about her world. It sounded terrifying and colorful. I got kidnapped once, Daisy said. Alien guy. Tatanga. Wanted to marry me and take over my kingdom. What did you do? I waited, Daisy said. Mario came to get me, sure. But while I was waiting, I didn't cry. I studied the ship. I learned the layout. I made sure that when the door opened, I was ready to run. She looked at Izuku. You've been waiting your whole life, haven't you? Waiting for a quirk. Waiting for a hero. Yeah, Izuku whispered. Well, the door is opening, Daisy said. All Might is the plumber coming to get you. But you have to run out the door yourself. You can't let him carry you. Because eventually, the plumber goes home, and you have to rule your own kingdom. She punched him lightly on the arm. You're not a damsel, Izuku. You're a player. Never forget that. Izuku looked at his hands, calloused, scarred, strong. I won't, he said. I promise. Good. Now give me 20 burpees. You got sentimental. What? But that was a nice moment. Rule number 2, no getting soft. Drop. Izuku dropped and did the burpees. But this time, he was smiling the whole way through. 5 months down. 5 to go. The vessel was forming. The player was logging in. And Uai wouldn't know what hit it. The alarm clock buzzed at 4:30 a.m., a hateful, screeching sound that used to make Izuku Midoriya want to bury himself under his duvet and pretend the world didn't exist. Now, his hand shot out and silenced it with a sharp thwack that rattled the bedside table. He sat up. The weighted anklets, Daisy's Sarasaland shackles, clinked against the frame of the bed. His legs felt heavy, but it was a familiar heaviness now. A comforting reminder that he was working. He rolled out of bed, landing on the floor with a heavy thud. He winced, hoping he hadn't woken his mother. Stealth mode, he whispered to himself. Crouch walking reduces noise. He crept to the kitchen, grabbed a protein bar, Daisy approved, tasted like sawdust and determination, and headed out into the dark streets of Mizurafu. The air was crisp. It was the start of the 6th month. The seasons were changing, the brutal heat of summer giving way to the cooler, breezier days of autumn. When he arrived at Dagoba Beach, he expected to see Daisy sitting on her usual throne of tires. Instead, the beach was empty. Coach? Izuku called out. All Might? Up here! Izuku looked up. Way up. Daisy was hanging upside down from a rusty crane arm that jutted out over the piles of garbage. She was doing inverted sit-ups, her orange dress defying gravity thanks to some strategically placed safety pins, or perhaps royal magic. Morning, Greenie! She shouted mid-crunch. Today isn't beach day, it isn't? Daisy flipped down, landing in a crouch from a 20-foot drop. She didn't even bend her knees that much. The sand barely shifted. Nope, she dusted off her hands. We've been building the base. Your legs are strong. Your core is solid. But you're stiff. You move like a tank. Tanks are great for taking hits, but terrible for platforming. She tossed him a helmet. It looked like a construction helmet painted with a bright orange flower. Put this on. We're going to the jungle. The urban jungle gym. The jungle turned out to be an abandoned construction site on the outskirts of the city. It was a skeleton of a skyscraper, a maze of steel beams, scaffolding, concrete pillars, and exposed rebar. Is this safe? Izuku asked, looking up at the 10 stories of unfinished building. Safe? No. Fun? Yes. Daisy grinned. In my world, we jump on moving platforms over pits of lava. This is just a playground. She pointed to the top. See that red flag? Izuku squinted. There was indeed a red piece of cloth tied to a girder on the 5th floor. Get it? Daisy said. Okay. Izuku headed for the stairs. Ah! Daisy grabbed his collar. Stairs are for NPCs. You're a hero. Heroes take the direct route. She pointed straight up the scaffolding. Parkour, kid. I want you to wall kick, mantle, and swing. If you touch the stairs, you do 50 burpees. Izuku gulped. He looked at the steel beams. Go! Daisy blew her whistle. Izuku jumped. He grabbed the first horizontal bar of the scaffolding. His grip was strong. Months of hauling fridges had given him a vice-like hold. He pulled himself up. Okay. Think. Momentum. He swung his legs, hooking them over the bar above. He hauled himself up. It was slow. Clunky. Too slow. Daisy shouted from the ground. You're climbing like a Koopa. Be a Mario. Jump. Izuku stood on a narrow wooden plank. The next level was 6 feet above him. There was no ladder. Just a concrete pillar about 4 feet away. Wall kick. He had practiced the theory on the beach, kicking off tires. But this was concrete. And it was high. Don't look down, he muttered. He ran 3 steps on the plank, leaped, and planted his foot on the pillar. Push. He drove his leg into the concrete. The friction held for a split second. He twisted his body, pushing off with explosive force. He flew backward and upward, his hands grasping for the scaffolding bar above. His fingers brushed cold steel. He clamped down. Yes. He swung, his momentum carrying him up. He scrambled onto the next level. Better! Daisy yelled. Now keep going. The timer is ticking. For the next 2 hours, Izuku navigated the maze. He slipped. He scraped his knees. He nearly fell twice, only catching himself with a desperate grab of a safety net. But he learned. He learned that his body could do things he never thought possible. He learned that momentum was a resource, just like stamina. When he finally grabbed the red flag, he was panting, bruised, and covered in concrete dust. He looked down. Daisy was giving him a thumbs up. Time, 12 minutes, she shouted. My personal best is 3 minutes. But hey, you didn't die. That's a passing grade. Diet and the mushroom stew. The physical training was brutal, but the dietary changes were a different kind of challenge. Daisy had fully infiltrated the Midoriya household. Inko Midoriya, initially terrified of the loud princess, had come to adore her. Daisy was the daughter she never had, bold, loud, and fiercely protective of Izuku. Mrs. M. Daisy burst into the kitchen that evening, carrying a basket of bizarre-looking vegetables. I found them. The closest thing this dimension has to super mushrooms. Inko laughed, stirring a pot. Portobellos, Daisy. They're called portobellos. Whatever. They're huge. They're meaty. They're power. Daisy dumped them on the counter. She turned to Izuku, who was sitting at the table attempting to do homework while wearing his weighted wristbands. His handwriting was shaky. Greenie, how's the protein intake? Hi, Izuku groaned. I feel like I'm made of chicken breast. Good. Chicken is agility food. Daisy grabbed a raw carrot and bit into it with a loud crunch. We need to talk about your special move. Izuku looked up. Special move? But I don't have a quirk yet. So? Daisy rolled her eyes. You think you need a quirk to have a finisher? I don't have fireballs naturally. I have a tennis racket and a bad attitude. That's my special move. She pulled up a chair and straddled it backward. All Might is going to give you the punch. The smash. That's great. But everyone expects the punch. What if you miss? I guess I'd be open to a counterattack. Exactly. You need a setup. A combo opener. Daisy mimed swinging a bat. In my sports leagues we use items. Shells. Bananas. Bob-ombs. Here, you can't use weapons in the entrance exam, but you can use the environment. She grabbed a salt shaker. This is a robot. She grabbed a pepper shaker. This is you. She slid the pepper shaker rapidly towards the salt. You run in. The robot swings. She knocked the salt shaker over. Bam. You're dead. Okay, now, she stood the salt shaker up. You run in. But instead of punching, you slide. She slid the pepper shaker under the imaginary swing. You kick the leg. The robot stumbles. Then you punch. Low center of gravity, Izuku muttered, scribbling in his notebook. Disrupting the balance. Daisy's low sweep. She announced. Or if you're feeling spicy, the peach bomber. You jump, spin, and hit them with your hip. It's surprisingly effective. The kinetic energy of a hip check is massive. Inko turned from the stove. Daisy, dear, are you teaching my son to hip check robots? I'm teaching him to use his assets, Mrs. M. Daisy winked. Izuku blushed furiously. Coach, what? It's a valid tactic. Glutes are the strongest muscle group. Use them. Sports day, the bat and the ball. The next week, Daisy brought a bag of sports equipment to the beach. Baseball bats, tennis rackets, golf clubs, and soccer balls. Weapon training? All Might asked, raising an eyebrow. He was sitting on a lifeguard chair, wearing a tropical shirt that hung loosely on his skeleton frame. Improvised weapon training, Daisy corrected. A hero isn't always going to have his gear. Sometimes, you're in a villain's lair and all you have is a pipe. Or a broom. Or a frying pan. She tossed the baseball bat to Izuku. He fumbled it, nearly dropping it on his foot. Grip it, she commanded. Choke up. Izuku held the bat. It felt foreign. Daisy picked up a tennis racket. I'm going to serve. You're going to hit. These aren't tennis balls. They're rocks. Rocks? Small rocks. Don't be a baby. Daisy tossed the pebble into the air. With a fluid, terrifyingly fast motion, she served. Pang! The rock whistled through the air like a bullet. Reflect it! She screamed. Izuku panicked. He swung the bat blindly. Whiff! The rock hit him square in the chest. Ow! That's 1 heart of damage! Daisy shouted. You have 2 left! Again. For the next hour, Izuku was pelted with pebbles. He was bruised, frustrated, and tired. Why are we doing this? He gasped, rubbing a particularly sore spot on his ribs. I'm not going to be playing baseball against villains. Daisy stopped. She lowered her racket. The playful look vanished from her eyes, replaced by the steel of a monarch who had defended her land. You think this is about baseball? She walked over to him. She poked the bat in his hand. This isn't a bat. It's a tool. It's an extension of your arm. When you swing, you have to know exactly where the tip is. You have to calculate the arc, the speed, the impact point. She pointed at All Might. He punches. His fist is the weapon. But one for all is powerful. If you punch something wrong, you shatter your arm. You know that, right? Izuku nodded slowly. All Might had warned him. This bat, Daisy said, is training your precision. If you hit the rock with the handle, it stings your hands. If you hit it with the tip, it lacks power. You have to hit the sweet spot. Every time. She looked him in the eye. When you get that power, Izuku, you have to hit the sweet spot. If you miss, if you unleash 100% of that power into the air, or into the wrong angle, you won't just break your arm. You could kill someone, or yourself. The gravity of her words settled on him. It wasn't just a game. It was control. Accuracy, Izuku whispered. Accuracy, Daisy confirmed. Power is nothing without control. Now. Stance up. She walked back to the line. She picked up another pebble. Ready? Izuku took a deep breath. He adjusted his grip. He focused on the tip of the bat. He visualized the sweet spot. Daisy served. The rock flew. Izuku didn't swing wildly. He watched. He waited. He pivoted his hips. Crack! The bat connected. A solid, satisfying vibration ran up his arms. The pebble rocketed back, sailing over Daisy's head and landing in the ocean with a plip. Home run! Daisy cheered, throwing her arms up. That's what I'm talking about. Izuku stared at the bat, a smile spreading across his face. He felt it. The connection. The control. The royal heart-to-heart. Month 4 ended with a storm. A typhoon battered the coast, making beach training impossible. They retreated to the Takoba Municipal Gymnasium, which All Might had rented out. The rain hammered against the metal roof, creating a rhythmic roar. Izuku was doing pull-ups. Daisy was sitting on the floor, stretching. Hey, coach, Izuku grunted, pulling his chin over the bar. Yeah, Greenie? Can I ask you something? Shoot. Why do you care so much? Daisy paused mid-stretch. She looked at the boy hanging from the bar. What do you mean? Izuku dropped down, landing lightly on his feet. He grabbed his towel. You're a princess. From another dimension. You have your own kingdom to worry about. Why spend 10 months training a quirkless kid in a world that isn't yours? Daisy sighed. She patted the floor next to her. Sit down. Izuku sat. Daisy pulled her knees to her chest. She looked uncharacteristically vulnerable for a moment. You know, everyone thinks being a princess is about tea parties and dresses. And don't get me wrong, I love a good dress. But in my world, it's dangerous. She traced a pattern on the gym floor. When Tatanga invaded, I was alone. Mario wasn't there yet. Luigi was, well, Luigi. My guards were turned into rocks or enemies. I had to watch my kingdom burn. Izuku listened, his eyes wide. I felt helpless, Daisy said quietly. I had the title, but I didn't have the power. I was just a symbol. A flag to be captured. She clenched her fist. I promised myself, after Mario saved me, that I would never be just a flag again. I trained. I learned to fight. I learned to play every sport, drive every cart, and throw every punch. I wanted to be strong enough to protect my people myself. She looked at Izuku, her blue eyes intense. When I saw you that day, running toward the sludge monster, I saw myself. Helpless. Weak. But unwilling to give up. She smiled, a sad but proud smile. You reminded me that you don't need to be a Mario to be a hero. You just need to refuse to lose. I'm training you because I don't want you to have to wait for a plumber. I want you to be the one who clears the level. Izuku felt a lump in his throat. Coach, and besides, Daisy grinned, punching him in the shoulder. It's fun. You're a great project. You actually listen. Luigi just cries when I make him do burpees. Izuku laughed, wiping his eyes. I think I cried the first week. Yeah, but you stopped. That's the difference. Daisy stood up and clapped her hands. All right. Enough feelings. The storm is passing. Let's work on your agility. I want you to run suicide sprints until you can beat me. Beat you? But you're superhuman. Then you better get superhuman fast. Go. The transformation. By the end of the 4th month, the change in Izuku was drastic. He wasn't the scrawny, hunched kid anymore. He walked with a bounce in his step. His shoulders were broad. His grip was firm. At school, people noticed. Did Midoriya get taller? He looks different. Is he working out? Even the teachers noticed. During PE, Izuku dominated the long-distance run, not by using a quirk, but by sheer lung capacity and stride efficiency. Daisy had taught him how to breathe. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Rhythm! Don't gasp! Control the engine, Bakugo noticed too. He watched Izuku with a mix of suspicion and irritation. The nerd wasn't mumbling anymore. He wasn't flinching. He was existing. Confidently. And that pissed Bakugo off more than anything. The final test of the phase. Daisy decided to cap off the Flower Power Fitness phase with a test. They returned to the jungle gym construction site. Capture the flag, Daisy announced. All Might is the flag. All Might stood on the roof, waving a small yellow handkerchief. I am the prize, he bellowed. You have 5 minutes, Daisy said. But this time, I'm the obstacle. Izuku froze. You. But, no holding back, Daisy cracked her knuckles. I'm not going to use my full strength, obviously, or you'd be paced. But I'm going to try to stop you. I'm a Goomba. I'm a Thwomp. I'm a Hammer Bro. You have to get past me. 5 minutes, Izuku repeated. Go! Izuku bolted. He hit the scaffolding. Daisy was faster. She leaped, clearing 20 feet in a single bound. She landed in front of him on the second floor. Blocked. She shouted, throwing a medicine ball at him. Izuku reacted. Dodge. He slid under the ball. He didn't stop. He vaulted over a railing. Daisy pursued. She was terrifying. She moved with the grace of a predator. She cut off his routes. She forced him to improvise. On the 4th floor, she cornered him. Nowhere to go, Greenie. She lunged to grab him. Izuku looked around. A hanging chain. A loose plank. Use the environment. He kicked the plank. It swung up, hitting a pile of empty paint cans. They clattered down, creating a distraction. Daisy flinched instinctively. It was a split second. Izuku jumped. Not away from her, but over her. He used the wall, kicked off, tucked his knees, and somersaulted over her head. Double jump! He yelled, even though it was technically a wall kick. He landed behind her and sprinted for the stairs. Hey! Daisy laughed, spinning around. Cheeky move! She chased him, but he had the lead. He scrambled up the final ladder. He lunged for All Might. I got it! His hand closed around the yellow handkerchief just as Daisy's hand grabbed his ankle. Time! All Might shouted. They froze. Izuku was panting, holding the cloth. Daisy was holding his foot, dangling him slightly off the ground. 4 minutes, 58 seconds, All Might checked his watch. Just in time, Daisy dropped his foot. She stood up and brushed off her dress. She looked at Izuku, who was grinning like a maniac. You used a distraction, she said. Strategy, Izuku panted. You taught me. Use the items. Daisy beamed. She grabbed his head and ruffled his hair violently. That's my student. Dirty tactics. I love it. She looked at All Might. He's ready for phase 2, she declared. The body is built. The instincts are waking up. Phase 2? Izuku asked. Combat, Daisy said, her eyes glinting. Now that you can move, you need to learn how to hit. And how to get hit. Get ready, Izuku. The tutorial is over. Level 1 starts now. Izuku looked at the city below. He felt strong. He felt ready. Let's do it. The barbell clanged against the floor of the Takoba Municipal Gymnasium, the sound echoing through the empty hall like a gunshot. 200 pounds, Izuku Midoriya wheezed, his hands slipping off the knurled metal bar. Sweat dripped from his nose, pooling on the rubber matting. His chest heaved, his arms trembled, but the weight had moved. He had lifted it. Deadlifted more than his own body weight. He looked up, expecting praise. He expected All Might to give him a thumbs up or Daisy to slap him on the back. Instead, Princess Daisy was sitting on a stack of plyometric boxes, scrolling through her phone, looking utterly bored. That was heavy, Izuku whispered, reaching for his water bottle. Daisy didn't look up. Did you say something? Izuku cleared his throat. I said that was heavy. I can't hear you, Daisy said flatly. Izuku blinked. He was standing 5 feet away from her. I said that was heavy. Daisy finally looked up. Her expression wasn't angry, but it was unimpressed. She hopped off the boxes and walked over to him. She circled him, much like she had on the first day, inspecting him like a used car. Physically? You're getting there, she admitted. Your lats are popping. Your grip strength is up. If this were a silent film, you'd be a star. But? Izuku asked, dreading the answer. But movies have sound now, Greenie, Daisy said, poking him in the solar plexus. And you? You're on mute. You lift the weight, but you do it like you're trying not to disturb a librarian. You grunt like a mouse. I don't want to make a scene, Izuku murmured. A scene? Daisy threw her hands up. Heroism is a scene. It's a spectacle. When All Might shows up, does he tiptoe in and whisper, "Excuse me, villains, could you please stop?" No. He screams, "I am here," and the windows rattle. All Might, who had been spotting Izuku, coughed politely into his fist. She has a point, young Midoriya. The voice is a tool. It reassures the innocent and strikes fear into the wicked. It is the announcement of hope. Exactly. Daisy snapped. And right now your presence announces, I hope nobody notices me. If you want to inherit One for All, you can't be a wallflower. You have to be the loudest thing in the room. She grabbed his gym bag and shoved it into his chest. Pack up. We're done with lifting for today. Where are we going? Izuku asked. Daisy grinned, a mischievous sparkle in her blue eyes. We're going to find your volume knob. And we're going to turn it to 11. The Dojo of Noise, the game station arcade in downtown Mizudafa, was a sensory assault. Neon lights flashed in seizure-inducing patterns. The air smelled of ozone, popcorn, and teenage sweat. The cacophony was deafening, a mixture of synthesized explosions, electronic jingles, racing engines, and the screams of victorious gamers. Izuku shrank into himself as they walked in. He hated crowded places. He felt like everyone was looking at him, judging his plain clothes, his messy hair, his very existence. Shoulders back. Daisy barked over the noise. Walk like you own the place. I technically could buy this place, so walk like me. She marched through the rows of cabinets, parting the sea of teenagers like an orange Moses. She stopped in front of a massive, multiplayer rhythm game called Taiko Drum Master Extreme. You ever play this? Daisy asked, picking up the heavy wooden drumsticks. A little. But I'm not very. Player 2 start. Daisy slapped the button. We're playing co-op. But here's the rule, you don't just hit the drum. You have to call the beat. Call the beat? Every time you hit a dan or a ka, I want a ha, or a say. If you miss a vocal cue, you do burpees right here on the sticky carpet. And trust me, you don't want to touch this carpet. The song started. It was a high-tempo J-pop track. Daisy was a machine. Her arms were a blur. Ha! Ha! Soya! Say! Ha! She was shouting with every strike, her voice cutting through the ambient noise of the arcade. People stopped to watch. A crowd began to form. Izuku froze. The crowd terrified him. Hit it, Midoriya! Daisy yelled without breaking her combo. Don't let me solo this. Izuku hit the drum. Thud. Silence. Thud. Thud. Louder! Daisy screamed. I can't hear your spirit. Izuku squeezed his eyes shut. He imagined the drum was the sludge villain. He imagined it was his own weakness. Ha! He squeaked. Pathetic. My grandma knits louder than that. Scream! Izuku took a deep breath. The rhythm was speeding up. The notes were flying across the screen. He had to keep up. Ha! Better! Keep going! Ha! Say! Ha! Izuku started to lose himself in the rhythm. The physical exertion of the drumming combined with the shouting unlocked something. The oxygen flowed deeper into his lungs. He stopped caring about the people watching. He focused on the red and blue icons. Ha! Ha! Say! The song ended. Daisy slammed her sticks down on the rim for a final clack. Full combo! The machine announced. The small crowd behind them clapped. Izuku blinked, coming back to reality. He looked around, flushing red. We did it, he whispered. Daisy grabbed him by the headlock and nuggied him. Not bad, Greenie. But you're still holding back. You're shouting from your throat. You need to shout from your gut. Your hara. She dragged him away from the drums toward the fighting game section. Next lesson, trash talk. Psychological warfare. They sat down at back-to-back cabinets for Hero Fighter 6. Daisy picked a character that looked suspiciously like herself, a princess in a dress who threw turnips. Izuku picked a generic balanced fighter. Okay, Daisy said as the loading screen flashed. New rule. You can't attack unless you announce it. Like, punch? Izuku asked. No. Give it flavor. Eat this. Take that. Out of my way. Heroes narrate their battles, Izuku. It lets the civilians know they're winning. It lets the villain know you're not scared. The round started. Daisy's character dashed forward. Here comes the pain train. Choo-choo. She yelled from the other side of the cabinet. She unleashed a combo. Izuku blocked, his fingers flying over the buttons. Block. Counter. Izuku muttered. I can't hear you. Daisy shouted. If you don't say it, it didn't happen. She broke his guard. With punish. Sit down, kid. Izuku's health bar dropped. He was losing. He was getting frustrated. Daisy was relentless, taunting him with every hit. Is that all you got? Are you gonna let a girl in a dress beat you? Where's the smash? Where's the passion? Izuku felt a spark of irritation. It wasn't the malicious bullying of Bakugo. It was the competitive goading of a rival. It made him want to win. I'm not done. Izuku yelled. That's a whisper. Try again. Izuku's character found an opening. A dragon punch input. Eat this. Izuku screamed. He slammed the buttons. His character launched an uppercut. It connected. Daisy's character flew into the air. Yes. Izuku shouted. Combo. Take that. Now you're playing. Daisy laughed maniacally. But don't get cocky. Meteor smash. They played for an hour. By the end, Izuku's voice was hoarse, but his adrenaline was pumping. He wasn't just playing a game, he was projecting his intent. He realized that saying the move made him commit to the move. It removed the hesitation. As they walked out of the arcade, Daisy handed him a bottle of water. You see the difference? She asked. Izuku nodded, drinking greedily. When I yelled, I hesitated less. It felt like the action was already decided. Exactly, Daisy said. The voice connects the mind to the body. It bridges the gap. When you yell smash, your brain tells your muscles, we are doing this. There is no turning back. It overrides the fear. She stopped on the sidewalk. It was evening now, the streetlights flickering on. But arcade games are easy, she said, her face turning serious. The real world is harder. You have to use that voice when people are looking at you. When they're judging you. She pointed to a busy fast food joint down the street. Burger Hero. I'm hungry, Izuku admitted. Good. You're going to order, okay? No, Daisy shook her head. You're going to order my way. You're going to walk up to that counter, look the cashier in the eye, and order with the same volume you used on the drums. No looking at your shoes. You speak clearly, loudly, and with authority. Izuku paled. But that's rude. It's not rude to be audible. Daisy corrected. It's rude to make the cashier ask what, 3 times because you're mumbling. Confidence is efficient. Go. Izuku walked into the restaurant. It was packed. He got in line. His heart hammered. Don't look at your shoes. Shoulders back. Chest out. He reached the counter. The cashier, a tired-looking teenager, looked at him. Welcome to Burger Hero, what can I get you? Izuku took a breath. He channeled the drum beat. He channeled the dragon punch. I would like 2 hero sets with large fries and 2 colas, please. His voice rang out. It wasn't a scream, but it was projected. Several heads turned in the nearby booths. The cashier blinked, looking surprisingly relieved. 2 hero sets, large. Got it. That'll be 1,200 yen. Izuku paid. He stepped to the side. He didn't shrink away. He stood tall waiting for his food. Daisy walked in grinning. I heard you from the door. Not bad, Greenie. Not bad at all. The echo of the beach. Month 3 bled into month 4. The training intensified. Now, whenever they trained at Dagoba Beach, it was noisy. Smash! Izuku threw a tire across the sand. Louder! Daisy yelled from her lifeguard chair. Smash! Again! From the diaphragm, Daisy taught him the kiai, the martial arts shout used to tighten the core and release power. Your core is a cylinder, she explained, poking his abs. When you shout, you pressurize the cylinder. It protects your spine and transfers force. A silent punch is a weak punch. A shouting punch is a cannonball. They practice battle cries. Daisy made him stand at the water's edge and scream at the ocean. Tell the ocean who you are, she commanded. Anazuka Midoriya, he yelled. Boring. Who are you? I'm going to be a hero. Better. But why should the ocean care? Make the waves tremble. It felt ridiculous at first. Izuku felt like a lunatic screaming at the tide. But slowly, the shame eroded. The sea was vast and loud. To be heard over it, he had to become vast himself. He learned to drop his voice an octave, to stop squeezing it through his throat and let it rumble from his chest. One afternoon, All Might joined them. I remember my first battle cry, All Might mused, looking at the sunset. My master made me yell at a mountain. She said, Tashinori, you are too polite. You cannot ask a villain to surrender. You must command the peace. He looked at Izuku. Young Midoriya. The voice is also for you. When you are afraid, and you will be afraid, shouting your own name, or your move, reminds you that you are still there. It anchors you to reality. Izuku nodded. He looked at his hands. They were calloused and scarred. I think I understand, Izuku said. His voice was deeper now, steadier. I've spent my whole life being quiet so I wouldn't get hit. But being quiet didn't stop the hits. It just made me invisible. Daisy put a hand on his shoulder. You're not invisible anymore, player one. Now let's go. I want to see you vocalize a parkour run. Every jump, I want a grunt of effort. Let's go. The shift at Aldera Junior High. The change didn't go unnoticed at school. For years, Izuku Midoriya was a ghost. He sat in the back, hunched over his notebook, trying to occupy as little space as possible. When called upon, he would stammer, his voice barely a whisper, earning giggles from the class and scoffs from Bakugo. But lately, the ghost had gained mass. It started with small things. When the teacher asked a question, Izuku didn't flinch. He stood up. The answer is the second law of thermodynamics, sir. His voice was clear. It carried to the front of the room. The teacher paused, chalk in hand, surprised. Yes. Correct, Midoriya. Sit down. The giggles stopped. The class looked at him. He didn't look down. He sat, his posture perfect. Daisy would throw a eraser at him if he slouched, and went back to his notes. Bakugo watched from the front row. The explosions in his palms popped quietly under his desk. His red eyes narrowed. The nerd was changing. The pebble was becoming a boulder, and Bakugo didn't know how to handle boulders he couldn't kick. He thinks he's better than me, Bakugo muttered to his lackeys during lunch. Look at him. Walking around with his chest out. He's looking down on us. Maybe he just hit puberty. One lackey suggested. Shut up. Bakugo slammed his fist on the table. He's plotting something. I'm going to find out what. The confrontation. It happened on a rainy Tuesday. Izuku was packing his bag after school. The classroom had emptied out, save for the cleaning crew and a few stragglers. Deku. The voice was low, menacing, and familiar. Izuku froze for a second. Old instincts flared. Run. Hide. Apologize. Rule number 1, no sorries. Izuku finished zipping his bag. He turned around slowly. Katsuki Bakugo stood there, flanked by 2 friends. He was blocking the doorway. His posture was aggressive, shoulders hunched, hands in pockets, radiating heat and malice. We need to talk, Bakugo said. He kicked a desk, sending it skidding across the floor. You've been acting real cocky lately. Talking loud in class? Walking around like you're some hotshot. What's the deal? You taking drugs? Steroids? Izuku stood his ground. He felt the weight of his backpack, a comforting weight. He felt the floor beneath his feet. I'm not taking anything, Kaken, Izuku said. I'm just training. Training? Bakugo laughed. It was a harsh, barking sound. Training for what? You're quirkless. You can train for 1,000 years and you'll still be a bug I can crush. He stepped closer, invading Izuku's personal space. Smoke curled from his palms. The smell of burnt sugar filled the air. You're trying to get into UA, aren't you? Bakugo hissed. I told you to give up. I told you to take a swan dive. Did you forget? Izuku's heart pounded. But it wasn't the frantic, bird-like fluttering of before. It was a war drum. Don't whisper. Don't look away. Izuku remembered the arcade. The rhythm game. The feeling of yelling SEI. And hitting the beat perfectly. He remembered Daisy holding the bat. Accuracy. Control. He remembered All Might. Command the peace. Izuku took a deep breath. He didn't step back. He looked Bakugo directly in the eyes. I haven't forgotten, Kaken, Izuku said. His voice was calm, but it filled the empty classroom. It bounced off the walls. But I'm not doing what you say anymore. Bakugo flinched. He expected stuttering. He expected tears. He didn't expect volume. What did you say? Bakugo growled, raising a hand. A small explosion crackled. I said. Izuku raised his voice, stepping forward into the threat zone. I am going to UA. I am going to be a hero. And you can't stop me. Bakugo's eyes went wide. The sheer audacity. The loudness. You wanna die, nerd? Bakugo swung. A right hook, lead with an explosion. Izuku saw it. Telegraph. But he didn't dodge this time. He didn't need to. He knew Bakugo wouldn't actually hit him if he stood his ground. Bakugo was a bully, but he wasn't a villain, not yet. He relied on fear. If the fear wasn't there, the attack had no fuel. Izuku didn't flinch. He didn't blink. He just stared at the incoming fist. Bakugo's fist stopped an inch from Izuku's face. The explosion popped harmlessly in the air, singeing Izuku's bangs. Silence stretched between them. The only sound was the rain hitting the window. Bakugo was breathing hard, his face twisted in confusion. Why didn't he flinch? Why isn't he scared? Are you done? Izuku asked. His voice was cool, level. I have to go. My trainer is waiting. He stepped around Bakugo. He didn't run. He walked. He walked right past the two lackeys, who parted like the Red Sea, too stunned to stop him. Don't ignore me! Bakugo screamed, spinning around. DKU! Izuku stopped at the door. He didn't turn back. My name is Izuku, he said loud and clear. See you at the exam, Katsuki. He walked out. The aftermath. Izuku walked out of the school building and into the rain. His legs were shaking now. The adrenaline was crashing. He felt like he might vomit. Holy crap, he whispered. I actually did it. He turned the corner and saw a familiar orange umbrella. Daisy was leaning against the gate, chewing gum. She looked him up and down. You're late, she said. I got held up, Izuku said, trying to steady his voice. Daisy peered at him. She saw the singed hair on his forehead. She saw the slight tremor in his hands. But she also saw the set of his jaw. Trouble with the boss? She asked. Just a mini-boss, Izuku corrected. A small smile tugged at his lips. I told him off. I didn't stutter. I didn't apologize. Daisy stopped chewing. A slow grin spread across her face. Did you use the voice? Yeah, Izuku nodded. I used the voice. Daisy laughed. She hooked her arm around his neck and pulled him into a side hug, nearly strangling him with her bicep. That's my boy. Level up. Charisma stat increased. She let him go and slapped him on the back. How did it feel? Izuku looked back at the school. For the first time, it didn't look like a prison. It just looked like a building. A small, insignificant building, it felt. Izuku took a deep breath of the rainy air. It felt like I finally started the game. Good, Daisy said. Because the tutorial is officially over. Phase 1, conditioning? Complete. Phase 2, mental fortitude? Check. She started walking down the street, twirling her umbrella. Now comes Phase 3, Greenie. What's Phase 3? Izuku asked, jogging to catch up. Daisy turned back, her eyes gleaming with a competitive fire that terrified and inspired him in equal measure. Phase 3 is movement. You have the strength. You have the voice. Now. She pointed a finger at the sky. We learn to fly. Fly. Well, jump really, really high. Same thing in my book. Come on. All Might is making hot pot tonight, and if we're late, he'll eat all the meat. Izuku laughed. He adjusted his backpack straps, stood up straight, and ran after her. Wait up, coach! I can't hear you! Wait up, coach! Izuku screamed, his voice echoing down the street, startling a flock of pigeons into the air. Daisy laughed, her voice joining his. Two heroes, loud and proud, walking into the storm.